I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. And again, we are in Hebrews. We read chapter 1, which was basically a description of Christ, comparing him to the angels and how he is greater than all the angels. It also kind of told us how angels are the ministering spirits. Very good stuff. And now we pick it up again in Hebrews chapter 2. But before I continue, my neighbors are kind of yelling outside. You may hear that in the background. In this video, we have a Joseph Smith translation. And what the Joseph Smith translation is, this is a translation or correction done by Joseph Smith to restore those passages that have been lost or corrupted over the years. Hebrews chapter 2. Therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip. For if the word spoken by angels was steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received a just recompense of reward, how shall we escape if we neglect so great salvation, which at the first began to be spoken by the Lord, and was confirmed unto us by them that heard him? God also bearing them witness, both with signs and wonders, and with diverse miracles and gifts of the Holy Ghost, according to his own will. For unto the angels hath he not put in subjection the world to come, whereof we speak. But one in a certain place testified, saying, What is man, that thou art mindful of him? Or the Son of man, that thou visitest him? Thou madest him a little lower than the angels. Thou crownest him with glory and honor, and didst set him over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him. But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. For it became him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. For both he that sanctifieth and they who are sanctified are all of one, for which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren, saying, I will declare thy name unto my brethren, in the midst of the church will I sing praise unto thee. And again I will put my trust in him. And again, behold, I and the children which God hath given me. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Wherefore in all things it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. For in that he himself hath suffered being tempted, he is able to succor them that are tempted. The author here again makes a few quotes in the Old Testament. This time, though, rather than just being descriptive of Christ, he quotes a prophecy, or he quotes it and then says, look at this, this is what the writer in the Old Testament said, and this is what Christ did. See how they match. And so he's pointing out how Christ has fulfilled the Old Testament writings. A couple other things to note in that the one that does the sanctifying and those that are sanctified are of one. I think this is more than just figurative. I think this, in order to sanctify us, Christ has to be a man. That's why he did not take on him the form of an angel. He took on him the form of men, because in order to perform the atonement, he had to be a man. If he took on, not that he could have, but if he had taken on the form of a horse, he may have redeemed horses, but he could not have redeemed men. That's what he's saying here. He had to take on the form of the ones he was going to save. But I do note this also in verse 3, which at the first began to be spoken by the Lord, and was confirmed unto us by them that heard him. This tells us that the author, whoever it is, was not one of Christ's original apostles. Peter didn't write this. It was somebody who was converted after Christ's ministry. They were converted by the testimony of the 12. They were not of the 12. But you'll also note that while it's not said quite as explicitly as in the book of Alma, he does talk about Christ's atonement being complete to the point that he experienced everything so that he could succor us in everything. He mentions the temptations. Christ was tempted so that he knew what temptation was. And so when we are tempted, he understands. He knows what we're going through because he has been through it himself. And it's the same thing with all of our trials. He has experienced it. He knows what it's like. Now, again, there is a single Joseph Smith translation in this chapter. Nice and short and sweet. In verse 16, in the King James says, "For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham." We have the correction. "For verily he took not on him the likeness of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham." So as I said, I use the term form instead of nature or likeness, but form is closer to likeness. That's what he's talking about. It just makes it a little bit more clear. And I leave that here, so we'll pick this up in chapter 3 next. See you there.